Welcome students. Now let's begin with the topic ethers. Ethers are the organic compounds having functional group O, and these have a general formula ROR, where R can be alkyl or aryl group. Ethers can be aliphatic as well as aromatic also. For example, we can have such type of ethers. These are aliphatic ethers. We can have such type of ethers, or so these are aliphatic and these are aromatic ethers. Ethers can be symmetrical or simple ethers, and they can be unsymmetrical or mixed ethers. For example, when both the R groups are same, it is known as symmetrical or simple ether. So these two are the examples of symmetrical ethers. But when the R groups are different, like this or like this, they are known as unsymmetrical. So these are symmetrical and these are unsymmetrical ethers. Now let's begin with the nomenclature part. Ethers are named as alkoxy-alkanes in IUPAC nomenclature. Now what is the meaning of alkoxy-alkane? So I am taking the example of a simplest ether. Now how the ethers are named? On both the sides 1 carbon is there. So any of the carbon chain is grouped with oxygen. Suppose this carbon chain is grouped with oxygen, so it will become oxy. Since 1 carbon is grouped with oxygen, so it will be named as methoxy. Now how many carbon atoms are left? Only 1, so it is methoxymethane. Suppose if I take this compound, on both the sides 2 carbon atoms are there. Now I can select any one of them to be included with oxygen. Suppose I am including this part. So it will be 2 carbon chain with oxygen. So it will be ethoxy. And how many carbon atoms are left? 2. So it is ethoxyethane. But suppose if we have some unsymmetrical ether like CH3O CH2CH3, then how to name it? According to the rule, the smaller carbon chain is included with oxygen. Now one side 1 carbon atom is there, other side 2 carbon atoms are there. So I will select the smaller part with oxygen. Now 1 carbon with oxygen, so it is now methoxy. How many carbon atoms are left? 2. So it is methoxyethane. Now similarly we can write for these compounds also. This is also an unsymmetrical ether. So smaller part is included with oxygen. So it is methoxy. Now 1, 2, 3. So it is 2 methoxy and 3 carbon atoms, it is propane. Likewise, we have nomenclature of aromatic ethers also. So to the benzene, if OCH3 is there, so smaller part is included with oxygen. So it will be methoxybenzene. This methoxybenzene is known as anisole in common system. We can have this compound also. Now it is known as ethoxybenzene. and the common name is phenitol. Likewise, we can have this aromatic ether also. Now it will be named as phenoxybenzene. So this is all about the nomenclature of ethers. Now let's discuss first the structure of ether. Now ethers are ROR compounds. The central oxygen atom is making two covalent bonds and it is having two lone pairs. So the central oxygen atom is sp3 hybridized with two lone pairs, and you can see if two bond pairs and two lone pairs are there, the shape is either bent or it is V shape. So ethers are having bent, V shape or angular structure with two lone pairs on the oxygen atom. Now moving on to the next topic is methods of preparation of ethers. The first method is from alcohols. This we have already discussed in the previous video containing chemical properties of alcohols. So from alcohols, how we can get ethers? This is my alcohol. Okay, now here I will use acidic dehydration. Dehydration means removal of water. Acidic means in the presence of acid. So I will be using some acid here, that is concentrated H2SO4 only, because concentrated H2SO4 is the best dehydrating agent. The temperature is 413 Kelvin. Temperature is quite specific here, because if the temperature is more than this, it results in the formation of alkenes. Okay, so what will happen? From the two molecules of alcohol, water is removed like this and we get this compound. So this is ethanol and I am getting ethoxyethane. This is how your alcohol can be converted into ether. This method is best for preparing symmetrical ethers. Now we have the mechanism of this conversion of alcohol to ether. Now let's discuss the mechanism of acidic dehydration of alcohol to form ether. Now this mechanism occurs in 3 steps. The first step is the attack of H+. Okay, in the board examination we get a 2-mark question related to the mechanism part, and we have to write all the steps with all the intermediates. Proper arrows should be there, proper lone pairs should be there. So first step is the attack of H+ on alcohol. So this is my electrophile. So these are the lone pairs on oxygen. So what will happen? Oxygen is having 2 lone pairs, and since H+ is attacking on oxygen, so it will take one lone pair and in turn it will impart positive charge to the oxygen atom. So what I will get? I will get protonated alcohol. This is the first step. Now in the second step, what will happen? This is the protonated alcohol. Now here the oxygen atom is positively charged. Since in this reaction 2 molecules of alcohols take part, so in the second step, now the second molecule of alcohol will participate. Means this protonated alcohol will attack on the second molecule of alcohol like this. Okay, and the direction of arrow will be from lone pair to the positive charge. Now what will happen? Now this water molecule will be removed, because now this oxygen atom is getting one lone pair. So the lone pairs of oxygen are now complete. So water is removed as a byproduct, and what will get? In turn, this positive charge will come on this oxygen. Okay, so this lone pair will be acquired by this oxygen atom, and in turn the positive charge will come on this oxygen atom. So I will get this compound. plus water is removed. This. Finally, in the last step, whatever H plus is there is extra, that is removed. So this H plus is removed now. Oxygen again will acquire two lone pairs. This is the ether formed and H plus is removed. So this H plus is acting as a catalyst here. Whatever H plus is added in the first step, we are getting it in the last step of the mechanism. So this mechanism is for dehydration of alcohol to form ethers. The next method of preparation of ethers is very important method. It is a name reaction. It is known as Williamson synthesis, and this method is from alkyl halides, that is RX. Now what is this Williamson synthesis? We can get a short note question also on the Williamson synthesis. So it is like this. This is RX. Now in this reaction we take this compound, that is sodium alkoxide, that is sodium salt of alcohol. Okay, we don't use alcohol directly, but we take the sodium salt of alcohol. So what will happen? This NaX is removed and we get ROR. This is ether. This method is best for preparing symmetrical as well as unsymmetrical ethers, aliphatic as well as aromatic ethers. Now let's take the examples one by one. Suppose if both the carbon chains or both the R parts are same. So I am taking R as CH3. So this will be like this. This is also one carbon chain and this is also one carbon chain. So what will happen? I will get this symmetrical ether. That is methoxymethane. Okay. Now suppose this is one carbon halide and this is 2 carbon alkoxide. Okay. So what I will get? Now again here also this NaCl is removed. Here also this NaCl is removed. So what I will get? CH3O CH2 CH3. This is unsymmetrical ether. Now for preparing this ether I can also use like this. I can take 2 carbon halide and 1 carbon alkoxide. Okay. So if you want to prepare unsymmetrical ether containing both the groups primary, now since both the groups are primary, so any group can be taken as halide and any group can be taken as alkoxide. Now what is the condition? Both the groups, that is both the R parts, should be primary. Now some special cases are there. Suppose if I want to prepare this ether. Now this is a branched ether, unsymmetrical ether. Now this side primary group is there and this side secondary group is there. This side primary is there and this side tertiary group is there. Okay, now we have to take care while using Williamson synthesis for such ethers. Always remember that halide should be primary. Why? Because it occurs by SN2 mechanism. Okay, your Williamson synthesis mainly occurs by SN2 mechanism, and we know that for SN2 mechanism which halides are best? It is primary. And suppose if you take secondary or tertiary halides, what will happen? For secondary or tertiary halides, elimination reaction is preferred. Occurs. So if you take any secondary or tertiary as halide, then what will happen? Elimination reaction will occur and instead of your ether, your alkenes will be obtained. Is this clear? So if I want to prepare this ether, so my halide should be primary. So like this. So this is the way to prepare this ether. Alkoxide can be secondary or tertiary. Likewise, if I want to prepare this ether, my halide should be primary like this. Now, alkoxide can be tertiary also. So what reason we have given here? That Williamson synthesis mostly occurs by SN2 mechanism, and for SN2 mechanism the yield is best when the halide is primary. And suppose if by chance you take any secondary or tertiary halide in Williamson synthesis, then elimination precedes substitution. So your main product will be alkene then. Now again a special case. Suppose if I want to prepare aromatic ether, so again I have to remember that halide should not be aromatic. Okay, so in this case your reaction should be like this. Okay, the aromatic sodium salt I have taken, that is sodium phenoxide, and halide is of carbon. And suppose if I take this, the reaction will not occur. Okay, so for preparing aromatic ethers, it is best that you don't take aromatic halides. Now what is the reason behind this? Because we know that if I take aromatic halide, then aromatic halide show resonance, and because of resonance the substitution is difficult. Okay, now because of resonance the CCl bond acquires double bond character. This we have learnt in haloalkanes, haloarenes chapter. And now substitution is difficult because aromatic halides do not give substitution easily, whether it is SN1 or SN2. So for preparing any ether containing secondary or tertiary group, your halide should not be secondary or tertiary. And for preparing aromatic ethers, your halide should not be aromatic. Aromatic sodium salts we can take. Now let's discuss the physical properties. The first physical property that we generally discuss is solubility. Now ethers are like this, and since ethers can make H bonding with water, so ethers are soluble in water. They are miscible in water because they can make hydrogen bonding with water. Now what happens as the size of this R group increases in size. Now this R part is non-polar part, so this hydrogen bonding decreases, and if hydrogen bonding decreases, your solubility in water will also decrease. So smaller ethers are water soluble, but the higher ethers, they become insoluble in water. Now the second physical property that we are discussing is boiling point. Now ethers do not make any kind of intermolecular H bond. Although ethers have oxygen atoms, but they don't have any hydrogen attached to the oxygen. So they lack intermolecular H bonding. And since they lack intermolecular H bonding, their boiling points are relatively less. Means suppose if I have two compounds, one is alcohol. Suppose if I have butanol, okay, 4 carbon atom alcohol, and suppose if I have this compound, it is also having 4 carbon atoms. Now which will be having greater boiling point? Definitely alcohol. So as compared to alcohols of the comparable molar masses, the boiling points of ethers are less because of the absence of intermolecular H bonding. So this finishes the physical properties of ethers.